You're still employed. I hear you. But it just doesn't feel stable anymore. I've been there. I get it. No announcement, no emails, just a shift in the air that tells you something is coming. The boss's behavior is different, more guarded. Communications are short. Meetings feel heavier with what's unsaid. And even though nothing is confirmed, your brain is already racing with what does this mean? By the time you close your laptop and you get home, your body's at home, but your mind, it's still at work or it's racing ahead into the future. You're scanning job boards after dinner. You're short and impatient with your spouse and your kids, and you're zoning out at the sink, replaying conversations from meetings that you barely remember earlier the day. Or you're fortune telling and catastrophizing over what will happen to you and your family if you lose this job. And it's not that you're overreacting, it's that your brain is trying to protect you. But fear is a terrible house guest when it follows you into the evening. So today we're going to talk about what happens at home when work uncertainty steals your peace and what you can do to remain calm in the waiting and in the uncertainty. And because yes, it is totally okay to be prepared. You don't have to dwell though in the crisis and the panic and the fear. Stick around. Today I'm going to talk about have a short reflection and a few practical exercises on how you can stay grounded in your faith, protect your time with your family, and take care of yourself, no matter what happens at work. Hi, I'm Sharon McCall with Whispering Fields Wellness. I'm a stress recovery coach that works with high achieving professionals like you who are starting to feel the cost of stress. Not only when you're facing difficult situations like a potential layoff at work, but anything stressful at work that's draining your energy or negatively impacting your personal life. I help people like you reconnect with what matters most: faith, family, and focus. So you can lead and have peace of mind, regardless of what work dishes out and throws at you. So touching back, before I get started on today, I'm going to touch back on what we talked about last week. If you need the link to it, let me know. We really focused in on what happens at work when you're facing the situation. Today, we're really going to focus on what happens at home when you're carrying this load. So, as I mentioned last week, the emotional toll, it can really get to you. So you're just physically drained and emotionally overwhelmed by the end of the day. You've got a tight chest, you're breathing shallow, your thoughts are racing. You may have even gotten yourself kind of like so overstimulated, you're just in a brain fog. And it's just tiring. And so the other way that is you've been going through this at work, you've been maintaining a very careful facade so people around you don't see what's going on and how you're feeling and don't take it as a sign of weakness. So you've been putting in the effort all day to keep your smile on and to put in this beautiful facade that everything's fine, even though you're like crazy spinning on what on earth is going on. And so by the time you get home, it makes absolute sense that you're just wiped out. So the way that this happens is it can take a lot of different forms. So if you're not able to just take that quiet moment and refresh yourself, you're going to find that you're short with your loved ones, you're impatient. All you want to do is just crash out. So you're not really participating. And the distraction, like I talked about in the intro. And part of you may be wondering why on earth, like a couple weeks ago before all of this started, I was able to do everything. But now, why can't I keep up? It's the same stuff. I'm just got a little bit of worry compared to when before. And then the other one, and I'm familiar with this because I went through this a couple times too. Why am I suddenly being a jackass to everybody that I love? I don't understand why I'm doing everything I can to keep it together at work, but then I just fall apart and just don't have anything left when I get home. And it's just because you're emotionally overloaded. So, as an introvert, there are many times, and it just wasn't when I was concerned about potential layoffs, I'd just be cashed out by the time I got home, overstimulated, exhausted, just from dealing with so many people and things and to keep the facade up. I just would want quiet in a book. But I knew that that would be unfair to my husband and all the plans that we had for the evening or the weekend. And so sometimes I would just really try and push myself to make sure that I just kept going and to do everything that we planned instead of taking that moment to refresh and to rebalance and to reset. And I'd end up behaving regrettably, snippy, short-tempered, distracted, just not myself. None of these things that I wanted to do. It just, that's all I had left by the end of the day. Those weren't good times. So, have you ever been there where worries from work, they just take over your evening? Let me know in the chat. Let me switch over and check on the chat. I just realized I don't have that popped up on my top screen. Chat. Okay. There we go. And if you're catching this on the replay, I will respond to anything you put in the chat. I really do appreciate your participation in all of this. I want to be able to help you and to get to know you through this video. So please do, even if you're catching this on the replay, put the chat in there. So sometimes, like I mentioned, you're doing all these things that you really, they're not like in your normal behavior set. It's just because you're so emotionally overwhelmed. And this fear shows up from this layoff. It shows up in invisible ways after you're home from work. So we talked a lot about the interaction and what happens once you get home, but don't forget about all the sleep that you lose. And then that becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. As soon as you start losing out on good quality sleep, the next day's rough. The more that you get behind on your sleep, the harder and harder it is to being able to maintain an even keel and to make sure that you've got enough energetic reserves. Another way that it pops up is just that underlying piece of just fear. It's that, what if? What if I lose my security? What if I lose my success? And it can get into a nasty spiraling pattern of, what happens if I lose my job? I'm going to lose my home. I'm going to lose my loved ones. I'm never going to get a job again. I'm going to have to go backward. I put so much effort to get to where I am in my career. I'm going to have to start all over. You might even be mad because you believe that your partner doesn't understand the weight of what you're carrying, and all that you believe is at risk in this tumultuous and uncertain time at work. I've been there, and I've talked to so many people over the years. I'm familiar with all the different ways that fear pops up. And you may be thinking to yourself, this isn't fear. This is me being prepared. This is me being proactive. I'm never going to get caught flat-footed. But are you doing it in a productive way that's really helping you? So I'm just curious, what's your worst case scenario that keeps you up at night in times of uncertainty? Like when you believe that a layoff is looming. I'd love to hear. Drop it in the chat. Okay. Like I said, I'll catch anything on the replay and get back to you afterwards. So knowing you, always prepared, overachiever, making sure that everything gets done correctly, sound like you? You always have a plan B, probably a plan C, and there are times you make your way all the way to plan Z because you are in control and not going to let anything go wrong. So I get it. You may believe that you're not feeding this fear spiral because you're taking action. You're doing things. You're countering this potential layoff in all the ways that you can, grabbing as much control as you can, and figuring out how to prevent your worst case scenario. So you find yourself preoccupied though. You're focused on the job boards, you're networking in LinkedIn, You're updating your resume, you're saving all the key documents and everything that you need and some samples of your work in case if you need it. You're besides searching the job boards, maybe you're looking for recruiters and you're watching interview videos on interviewing techniques. You could be doing a whole ton of stuff, but it's all got this panicky, pushy edge. You have to do it. So you may not be thinking you're caught in a spiral, but your actions and this overwhelming need to have plan Z in place is driving you to take all of these different actions. And you may not be able to focus then on what's going on right now and what's right in front of you, your family, taking care of yourself, making sure you're not exhausted. Another way that I've seen this is just the absolute gut-tearing pull that can end up occurring. You really like your job. You like the people that you work with. You really don't want to be job hunting. And if you put any time into job hunting to protect yourself, you may be making it even harder on yourself emotionally because you feel disloyal, you feel guilty, and you're just torn. Any of these different things, whether it's the spiraling thoughts, all of these panicky edged activities, or the tear is you're just trying to prepare yourself. This is what I call the preoccupation spiral. Do you find yourself caught into that? Let me give you a point of comparison because maybe you're not quite so clear in terms of what peaceful preparedness might look like compared to a preoccupied spiral. And this line is going to be different for everybody. And let me be clear, this is not like a pray and wait type of peaceful preparedness. God's got me. I'm not going to do anything. I get for folks that are strong, high achievers, that may be a very difficult spot to get to from where you are right now. And this is definitely not me saying go put the blinders on and pretend nothing is happening. Maintain an optimistic viewpoint. You never know. Nope, not talking about that. Peaceful preparedness to me is that you are calmly and in an organized way preparing. It's not overwhelmingly preparing, just doing what is that one or two next right thing so you feel secure. So what peaceful preparation looks like, it's still doing the activities that we talked about, updating your resume, saving your documents, conversations with mentors, but it's the feelings and the emotional intensity that goes behind it that's different. It's that underlying assumption that God's got a good plan for you. You just need to take it one step at a time with Him and for Him. And it's just as likely that God's got something you can't even imagine fantastic in front of you as that worst case scenario. So by framing your actions and holding on to those emotions, you can still pursue preparedness, but do it in a way that's peaceful, that's not adding to your stress and your worry and your emotional exhaustion. So does that distinction help you get greater clarity in regards to the differences between peaceful preparedness and preoccupied spiral? Let me know if there's any questions or comments that you have on those two distinctions. So as you think about yourself, what is your line of distinction between those two approaches? So as you look at your actions, are they bringing you peace? Or are they just giving you an illusion of control? Are you preparing for worst case scenarios and bracing for that impact, like an airplane about ready to crash? Or are you stepping forward with confidence and optimism? As you get into these activities, is it really the best use of your time and energy right now? Because let's be honest, if you actually went through all these steps and you got a job offer today, before you know, are you willing and ready to take it? Even if it's not a better opportunity, are you willing to compromise on what you want with your career just for security? And the last question is this the most important thing for you to do today? Because a lot of these things are happening in the evening as you're at home. Your kids, they grow up so fast. Is watching you get on the job boards the right thing? Being risking being sharp with your husband or your kids or your any of your loved ones? Is that the way you want to spend your evening? Crashed out? No, I'm sure it's not. So think about it. Is this the best use of your time right now as you are in the middle of these actions? So if you find yourself drawn to them, just these three different questions, honestly. Are they bringing you peace or an illusion of control? Are you bracing for impact or stepping forward with optimism? Is this the best way and best use of my time right now? Those three questions can help you to understand where are your actions based from? Are they part of the preoccupied spiral? Or are they part of peaceful preparedness? So let's come back to that preoccupation spiral for just a second. So now that you understand the difference and how you can distinguish what activities kind of follow which way, do you see how it's eroding your peace and taking you away from precious time that you have with loved ones? Work's already busy and hectic enough. And as you think about it, the reason you do this and chase career success, isn't it for your family? Isn't it for you and them to have a great future? And what does that great future look like to you? Enjoying the memories of them growing up, of being able to have these fun times together? Is that what success is? Or is it the bigger house and the bigger car? So as you're going through this period and really wondering what does your future hold, does it really make sense to put them second? Isn't this a time just to kind of lean in, love your family, and make sure you're proceeding with peace and figuring out what is that right best thing to give you the future that you need? So let's get into how you can have more peaceful preparedness. Well, actually, before I get there, let me tell you a story. So, as I mentioned last session, I have been part of designing many consolidations, closures, downsizing, whatever phrase you want to use for it. And several of the ones that I participated in, I knew that I was going to end up losing my job with it. My job was one of the ones that was up for consideration. And maybe it wasn't immediately in the same timing for the people that I was planning for, or it could have been just a short term after. So, in these periods, as the leader and a key decision maker in all of this, I had to get clear on what was really, truly important for me and figuring out how to manage my own emotions through there. Because honestly, I didn't want to end up making my teams think that there are even more quiet signs that my team was seeing. I'm in a tight industry. Everybody knows everything. Go to an interview, friend of a friend of a friend, 6 degrees. They know you went for an interview. You get busier on LinkedIn, somebody's going to notice. And I've had that happen. I ended up in one of these situations, I decided it was time to reconnect with my network and to start building again. One of my employees came and asked me directly, does this mean that I should be job hunting too? Because they automatically assumed that that's what I was doing. I was focusing on building my network because I'd been part of a new board and was trying to get some local connections. Yes, I had in the back of my mind that I needed to make sure I had enough connections so I could get another job, but I couldn't say that to somebody at work, not to one of my downline. So I needed to make sure that I was being authentic, which was that I was building my network and able to do this in a peaceful way that he could accept that message. So every time that I went about this and I did this in a peaceful way, eyes wide open, really put together a structured plan for what I needed to do, I was able to get through this with so much more peace than if I had ended up getting myself all in a tizzy. Or the first time I went through all of this, I just went through there with blinders. I'm like, oh, I'm on too many important projects. I'm not going to get impacted. And then I was all super panicky because I got the pink slip and I wasn't prepared for it. And that was really crazy for me. So, I didn't want to end up doing that again. So, depending on where you are and what you've got going on, you can choose to approach this in different ways. And so, just figure out what is that right path for you so that you can have peace regardless of whatever's going on at work. And so that you've got the energy and the focus to put on the things that matter most: your faith, your family, your self care, and then work. So, how do you get then into peaceful preparedness? So, let's start with a couple of simple things. So, last time I talked about some tactics that you can use being able to stay calm at work and to minimize how much you're getting caught up in the whirlwind of the gossip and everything going on at work in regards to this. So, as you leave work and you're a little bit calmer, it certainly makes some of your stuff at home a lot easier. You may need in this period, though, a stronger end of workday routine and a stronger end of preparing for bedtime routine so that you can make sure that fear and worry don't bleed over and take over in your evening or into your sleep. So here's a handful of small little things that you could build into a tiny habit to use regularly. And these will work for you whether it's in tumultuous, uncertain times or good ones. These are all just good habits to have. So I'm going to run through a couple of these. If you want to end up getting some more information in regards to how to build better habits, put habits in the chat and I'll send you some of the resources that I have on that. So one of my favorites is to do a breath prayer based on Proverbs 3:5 for this situation. And so this is on the inhale, you're taking the first part of the verse, and on the exhale, you're focusing on the second part of the verse. And you just keep repeating this as part of your slow and deep breathing until you settle yourself out. So I trust in the Lord with all my heart and do not lean on my limited understanding. I trust with the Lord in all my heart and do not lean on my limited understanding. Creating a phone-free buffer is always a good thing to have and to strengthen that boundary between work and home. If you need to, just have what's that quick reset habit. Have in mind whatever it is that you're going to do anytime you find yourself drifting off. Is it a scripture card? Is it a breath prayer? Is it stretching? Is it getting a glass of water? Whatever it is for you, just so that you've got something that is always your go-to to stop the spin and get you into a different mindset. A couple of my favorite verses that you might want to meditate on and to do some journaling on to help you through this is Matthew 6:34, which is the one about do not worry about tomorrow, or Jeremiah 29:11, plans to give you a hope and a future. Another one that's really good is Proverbs 3:6. In all my ways, did I acknowledge God? Did I take care of what mattered most today? Was I gentle to myself, working within my limits? And do I trust that God will make straight my paths? So any of these are just quick little, less than 3-minute type of little habits that you can include into your routines or have on an as needed basis to help you anytime you find yourself spiraling into these. So those are just some quick little habit change things. And like I said, I wanted to equip you with something a little bit more because just so you can feel comfortable, I know you want to do a little bit of preparedness, getting at least plan B in place. It gives you some security and it gives you some room to breathe and some space so you're not in a panicky mode. So you just want to break it down. Just think about what makes sense to do now. Not all of it. You really don't know how this is going to turn out. Who knows? Maybe you're one of the people that's retained. Maybe this has nothing to do with downsizing and everybody's speculating about something that's just not going to happen. You don't know how it's going to turn out. Only God does. So let your worries go and just do one thing at a time. So give some thought for a little bit to what makes you feel the most secure. Is it reconnecting with your network? Just getting back out on LinkedIn? Maybe how you even found this video? Updating your resume? just getting yourself an emailed list of weekly job search opportunities and just looking through them just so that you can start thinking out about what's the keywords, what types of things do I want, or just watching 1 or 2 videos on what current job search techniques look like. So just think about what those things are. One of the things I did that I really enjoyed and helped give me a lot of security is I focused on upskilling. As I went through a couple of different transitions, I knew I needed to end up having additional skills because I wasn't going to keep on the straight and narrow path that I was on in my career. I wanted to branch out. So this left it open-ended. It was personal development. No matter what happened, I felt better, and it was starting to position me for whatever that next role is. So maybe that's something that you want to end up doing in this time frame of uncertainty to get you that plan B, not plan C, and definitely not all the ones that get to plan Z, just a few steps forward. So you know that you're prepared, even though you don't know what's going on. So just take those next steps. And the other piece to do is to just set aside the time. Make sure it's not impacting the precious limited time that you have in your evenings where you really need to rest and restore yourself for another day at work and to being able to enjoy your time with your loved ones, your family, and staying connected with your faith. So just find that right balance. Is it an hour a week, a couple hours a week, just spread out through the days? What is it that helps you to feel like you're doing what you need to? So you're not pulling up all of these emotions of fear and lack and worry or panic in regards to what's going to happen, but so that you can be calm, yet feel that you're prepared as you're moving forward. So, what's your takeaway for today? How can you end up approaching this uncertainty in the workplace with greater peaceful preparedness? Drop it in the chat. I'd love to hear what you're going to try this week. So, I'm going to end up closing us today in prayer based around Romans 8:28. God, we want to trust in your ability and not our own. Teach us to see difficulties in our lives from your perspective. Help us to focus on you and your power. Our responsibility is to carefully read, trust, and obey your word, taking one small action at a time. Today, I bring before you these fears of layoffs that my friend has, and these worries of what the future for their career may hold. Help us not to fear, but to trust you in difficult situations like this. We declare our faith in your ability to fulfill your promises to us. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. In Jesus' name, amen. So if this is something that you've been carrying quietly and constantly, no, you don't need to figure this all out alone. So if you've got a stressful work situation, even if it's not something like you're worried about a potential layoff, book a work stress solution call. The link is in the description. We'll walk through one challenge that you're facing at work and help you take at least one peaceful, purposeful step forward so that you can boost your energy, regain your focus, or just feel less stress and more harmony between work and your personal life. Know that you have done enough today. You don't need to be cramming in all of these extra things just to make yourself feel secure. And now it's time just to rest in knowing that God's already in tomorrow. He knows what's going on. So give him a little bit of trust. So next week, we're going to kind of keep on the theme of uncertainty. I didn't really get too much into it in regards to how work worries often keep us up at night. So you're dragging at work the next day. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more as I close out this arc. So look forward to chatting with you then as we work on how not to worry about tomorrow. I promise I'm not the expert. I still have my own challenges with that. So until then, have a blessed day.